What is the outlook for 2026 in the market?
It's going to be tumultuous, but I think it'll end positive, and then 2027, then we'll have iceberg slim show up. The most important lesson that I need you guys to know for 2026, whether we have a deep decline or we're flat, your job is to accumulate as many assets as possible. Now you got to be an asset hoarder. Like if it's accumulation time, for those of you who believe in MicroStrategy, if you believe in that, then it's time for you to pile in. If you believe in Bitcoin, it's time for you to pile into that. A lot of you are asking about SpaceX. Okay, well, let's cover Microsoft first, your index funds first, but this has to be a deep accumulation year. And also, too, now is not the year for you to learn more. And I know he just said that, but in the market, we've given you what to invest in. You have to deploy more capital there. The sense that I get from every person that I talk to, and no one knows what the free fall cause is going to be, but everyone I talk to knows that there's going to be a free fall at some point in 26 going into 27. And here's the part that no one's going to tell you. No one's going to save you when you're in desperation because no one really gives a fuck. That's why most people who have information, they're quieter than ever in gatekeeping. There's not many people telling you, even with SpaceX. Thank God for Vlad. But look how much pushback they gave him on tokenization of pre-IPO assets. We got this market down, but they're going to block you out the VC and the angel deals. Why? The private equity deals. Why? Because they don't want you to have access to it. They want to keep that 1%. It's like, well, we gave y'all the stock market. You can have that, but the 700% gainers that you can get before it even hits the market, we don't even want you to touch that.
Yeah, I think that's why this is such an important time, such an important show, such an important moment. 2026, I'm optimistic about it. And there's a couple, I always talk about catalyst events and things that can have the market move. I think if you look at the hyperscalers, the Metas, the Amazons, the Microsofts of the world, Googles, Tesla, I think from what we've seen in 2025 and what their future projections are for 2026, I think the CapEx story still is the same. You ask yourself the question, are they going to spend less or are they going to spend more? And the answer is more. And if we're talking about infrastructure, are we talking about spending less or are we going to be talking about spending more? We're going to be talking about
spending more for protection.
Spending more. Deregulation is a word that keeps coming up. And I think it plays a major part into the story of 2026 in terms of AI specifically, when we talk about ginseng and our battle, our race to make sure that we stay ahead of China. He said the deregulation is going to be the biggest issue, right? If it takes us 6 weeks to build, or 6 years to build a data center, and it takes them 2 days to build a hospital, that's going to be a problem for us in the future. We have to figure out how we can get these things happening and off the ground faster, to the point where now AI deregulation is going state by state. So you start to see the early signs with that. Deregulation helps the AI industry, but it also helps the financial industry when we're talking about banks. And we'll talk about those a little bit later. So that's a tailwind that I think helps the market. When you talk about autonomous and EV, this is the year for Tesla. So it show improve. So that's another event. I think the new Fed chair, right? This is not going to be a person who is going to be, someone that's going to set the economy back, or you would think, or they wouldn't be selected. So that is one. The China story with NVIDIA is another one. I think that first half of the year, I'm super optimistic. I think we're going to have another positive year. I know we're pacing at 17% right now, or just under it. So it would be 3 years and potentially of 20% gains. Now, that's happened once before. I was listening to Tom Lee earlier, and he was like, we've seen this happen in the 90s when we were talking about the internet. And then that fourth year was actually one of the better years out of the four. Obviously, we know what happens in 99 and 2000, but I'm optimistic about the market. I saw Oppenheimer had a S&P target of 8,100. And then there was an S&P raise of 7,100. But that median is like 7,700, which tells us, again, that we potentially will be sitting at another 11 to 13% gain for the S&P, which is I mean, just above average, which is good. So I'm optimistic about it. I think toward the end of the year, we may see some tailwinds that might turn the market a little bit negative. Obviously, this is a midterm year. We already spoke about how markets perform in midterm years as government changes and political offices change. So we'll be looking toward that in November. But I think we start off the year pretty well.
And you got to be more focused on the decade targets as a gem. I think too often people get too caught up in how a year is going to do, opposed to if you really want generational wealth, if you're not willing to hold for 10 years, you're just talking. You're missing on too much upside to care about what's going to happen in a quarter or 6 months.
Yeah. I say that because I don't want people to be fearful, right? Like they keep hearing about this crash. They keep hearing about we're going to recession, and then it doesn't happen. And then you don't do anything because you kept listening to what people were saying. So,
well, we hit recession in 22 and they changed the definition of what it was, but that was an immense buying opportunity, just like they won't print the Fed reports now.
Yeah. And look at the returns out of that from 22, right? You're talking about, again, 3 years of potentially 20% gains. So you can't, the recession, if it does happen, right? Or let's say we have a downturn, we just got to be prepared for that because that's when people are going to make money. That is the exact time when you should be investing. Like, okay, here we were prepared for it. We got our entry prices, whether it was in futures and options, or if you're just buying equities. Now we can grab those shares that we want at a price that we want, and let's watch those returns over the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years.
Somebody said in chat, they said, do you think Netflix is going to pass over $100 in Netflix? We talked about this on Blackout, but obviously, them coming into the podcast game, they made a lot of news last week. They signed a bunch of podcasts, including Breakfast Club and Joe and Jada's show.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also had the fight with Jake Paul. And
we're going to call it a fight? The event?
Technically. with Jake Paul.
Anthony
Joshua. So Netflix has been making a lot of news this whole entire year. But that was one of the questions, is it going to pass over $100 anytime soon?
Yes. I mean, I think that's an easy target for them to hit. But I think the falling of Netflix is a canary in the coal mine for what's to come. But the reason why I keep telling people to double down now, because you see all the companies doing it. Troy, you just brought up infrastructure and data centers. But even for Paramount to come back and say, well, Larry Ellison would personally guarantee. Okay, so when people ask what to moat, Netflix having that fight this weekend and all the investment that they're going to put into future content to now become our generation's version of cable is them building a moat in front of our face. Will they go back to 100? Yes. Are we going to still see the 35%, 40% year-over-year gains? Probably not, but could they eke out 15 to 20% gains? Yes. Is Netflix a buy? Yes. Yeah. They are the verb in the category. And probably one of the best run companies in the media space. Like, you look at what everything Netflix has done, Disney has dropped the ball on what they should have done. Now, there's a lot of regulatory reasons and personal vendettas inside of why. But will they get back to 100? Yes. Hold for the long term.
Yeah,
you'll be fine.
You got to hold Netflix. I mean, Netflix is coming to an interesting time. Obviously, the stock split happens, and then the potential merger here. It's interesting because this is their quarter. Like, this is the quarter where you start to see what they're rolling out for their future. Obviously, another fight, more live sports with the NFL happening on Christmas here. Stranger Things is blowing out all of its expectations, but inside of that, they got the Diddy documentary. Like, I know we can say what we want, how we feel about it, but you're talking about over 3 billion views for a documentary that you didn't even expect to be on the docket.
Yep.
And so that tells you, all right, there's growth here. People are really watching it, and people are subscribing at records. And then you go into the iHeart deal, and it's like, okay, well, that's significant because now they want to be a part of your daily life, right? Because when you watch Netflix, you watch a show, you're done with it in a day. Well, how can I become a part of your daily life? If I don't have sports every day, what are people doing every day? Well, a lot of people are listening to podcasts on a daily basis.
Yep.
And if they have the video component, you're probably watching that on a daily basis or at some point during your week. So if I can be part of your weekly schedule, as opposed to, hey, Stranger Things is done, I watched it all, or Squid Games is done, it's seasonal, I'm done with it. Remember when Narcos was a thing? We're done with that in a weekend. How can I become part of your everyday ritual? If I can't do it in live sports, I'm going to do it in something that is also entertaining you, which is podcasts, which is a huge business. Obviously, we're a part of that business. The growth is there. The potential is there. This merger has kind of curveballed it a little bit, but I still like Netflix long term. I got a few positions in Netflix.
Hold for the long term, yo. But we've been screaming the same thing. Like, just hold. Be faithful to your portfolio so you can be free. Put it in chat. None of this 3-month bullshit, 6 months. Everything has to be 5 years. Like, everyone in tech is playing 20 and 30-year games right now. Larry Ellison is personally guaranteeing billions of dollars for the benefit of his fucking son. Yeah. And people are worried about a 3-month run. I've been telling you since the beginning, hold for 5 years. Yeah. Stay inside, because a lot of y'all who popping it on the gram, you're hurting right now. Derek just told you. I can see who living through the business. You got lifestyle businesses, and then guess what? They keep raising the prices on everything.
Yeah,
no need to play lifestyle games.
The Larry Ellison thing is, we've been talking about him for a year now in terms of the moves that he's making, obviously from Stargate, and then with TikTok. Quietly, like all the news with the Paramount potential merger with Warner Brothers, they got approved, and now they got 50% ownership in TikTok, which, I kind of said, like, if you look at who's doing the cloud server for TikTok, it was Oracle in 2020. They got that deal. They were going to be the leader to be in the investment. But him saying, look, I'm putting $40 billion up guaranteed. It's interesting because 2 weeks ago when the CFO of Netflix was on, he said that was not part of the deal. 2 weeks later, now they got a personal guarantee for $40 billion, which tells you how important to them having that network is in terms of spreading the messages that they want, having control of the messages that they want, and having media. So one thing that the Ellison group, and I say group because David is the son at the head of Skydance in Paramount, Larry is obviously the dad and head of Oracle. They don't have a media arm the way that they want to, right? And I told during that class, look, Paramount does not make money. Skydance does make some money, but not enough to have this merger. Where were they going to get the back end? Dad said, look, I know I'm worth 250. Here's 40 guaranteed.
I put up 40.
All cash deal. All cash deal.
Because in the next election, if you can go back into that White House and say, well, I can get you 36 more million viewers per month, that'll secure the financing that you need for the other ventures to go well. This is war games. That's why I like the tone that it's like, it is not time to play at all. Notice, and the people who sold off their companies in the last few years, the UFC selling was interesting. Then Dana ended up in the White House and on the board of Meta. Meta's involvement in the White House. Vince McMahon walking away, but then they cut his legs from underneath him and told every little secret. That was the first Diddy doc to lower the valuation. Please, I am begging you, because you don't know when we're going to end the show. Because one day we're going to pop up and be like, it's been fun. Deploy capital into the best assets on earth. Hold for 5 years minimum, ideally 10. They are changing the world in front of us. There is no more safety in corporate how this should be. And it's unfortunate. But everyone is going to be forced to be an investor and an entrepreneur, given the wave of AI. They have invested. They're going to invest $2 trillion into AI. You can't afford to sit on the sideline.
No, that's a fact.